There are some mornings that stay with you forever, not because they're special, but because they're the ones where everything breaks. It was a Saturday in late September, the kind of Michigan morning where the air smells like fallen leaves and possibility. I was in the kitchen making pancakes, the fancy kind with chocolate chips arranged in smiley faces, because that's what stepmothers do when they're trying to prove they belong. The batter sizzled on the griddle, filling our home with warmth, and I remember thinking how perfect everything felt, how wrong I was. My name is Jada Williams Porter, and for 5 years, I'd been building a life with a man I loved, and 2 children who weren't mine by birth but felt like mine in every way that mattered. Or so I thought. Kayla was 8, all gap-toothed grins and endless energy, always asking me to braid her hair or help her pick out clothes that matched her vibe. Devin was 6, quieter, more thoughtful, the kind of kid who'd climb into my lap with a book and stay there for hours while I read to him. Their mother had left when Devin was barely 2, moved to California for a job opportunity, and decided long-distance parenting wasn't for her. Monthly phone calls became quarterly, then twice a year, then just birthday cards with $50 bills inside, and no personal message. I'd met their father, Trevor, at a community center where I volunteered teaching art classes to kids. He'd brought Kayla to my watercolor workshop, this harried single dad with paint-stained shirts and tired eyes, and something about the way he looked at his daughter with such fierce, protective love made my heart skip. We dated for 8 months before he introduced me to the kids, another year before I moved in, and when he proposed on Kayla's 7th birthday, with both children holding a piece of the ring box, I cried so hard I could barely say yes. I want to pause here for just a moment to say thank you. Thank you for being here, wherever you are right now. Maybe you're cooking breakfast like I was that morning, or driving to work, or just trying to make it through another day. Your presence here means everything. It's what allows me to share these truths, these moments that changed everything. So thank you, truly, for listening. That Saturday morning, I'd woken up early, the way I always did on weekends, to give Trevor a chance to sleep in. He worked long hours as a project manager for a construction company, and I knew how exhausted he was. I tiptoed downstairs in my robe, started the coffee, and begun preparing what had become our Saturday tradition. Pancake breakfast with all the fixings. The kids would be up soon, thundering down the stairs with their weekend excitement, and I wanted everything to be ready. But Trevor came down first, earlier than usual, his face already set in that expression I'd learned to recognize over the years, jaw tight, eyes distant, the look that meant work, stress, or money worries, or something I couldn't quite name. He poured himself coffee without saying good morning, leaned against the counter, scrolling through his phone, while I flipped pancakes and tried to gauge his mood. "The school called yesterday," I said, keeping my voice light and casual, "about the fall festival next week. They need parent volunteers for the pumpkin patch station. I told them I'd help, and I thought maybe you could take a half day, come join us? Kayla would love—" "You told them you'd help?" Trevor's voice was sharp, cutting through the comfortable kitchen sounds. "Without asking me first?" I turned from the stove, spatula in hand, confused by his tone. "I didn't think I needed to ask. I always help with school events. I'm on the PTA committee, you know that." "Yeah, well," he set his coffee down harder than necessary. "Maybe you shouldn't be making decisions about my kids without consulting me. My kids, not our kids. Not the kids. My kids." The words landed like a slap, but I pushed the feeling down, told myself he was just tired, just stressed, just having a bad morning. "Trevor, I was just trying to help. I always help with school stuff. That's what I do." "That's the problem, Jada." He turned to face me fully now, and there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something cold. "You're always doing stuff, always inserting yourself, always trying to be something you're not." My hands had gone numb. The spatula felt heavy. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about you acting like you're their mother, making decisions, signing permission slips, showing up to parent-teacher conferences like you have some kind of authority. But you're not their real mom, Jada. You're not." The kitchen went silent except for the sound of pancake batter burning on the griddle. I stood there, frozen. Those words echoing in my head like a scream in an empty room. "You're not their real mom. You're not their real mom. You're not their real mom." 5 years. 5 years of school drop-offs and pickups. 5 years of sick days and doctor's appointments. 5 years of homework help and bedtime stories. 5 years of playdates and birthday parties. 5 years of being there, showing up, loving these children with everything I had. And in one sentence, Trevor had reduced all of it to nothing, to me pretending. To me, inserting myself where I didn't belong. "The pancakes are burning," Trevor said flatly, turning back to his phone. I moved mechanically, turning off the stove, scraping the ruined pancakes into the trash. My hands were shaking now, my throat tight with tears I wouldn't let fall, not in front of him. Not when he'd just made it clear how little my efforts meant. "I was just trying to help," I said again, hating how small my voice sounded. "I know," Trevor said, but there was no warmth in it. "But maybe try less hard. They have a mother, even if she's not around much. You're my wife." That's enough. Just his wife. As if the thousands of hours I'd spent raising his children, caring for them, loving them, meant nothing. As if biology was the only thing that mattered. As if love and dedication and showing up every single day counted for nothing at all. I heard small footsteps on the stairs. Kayla, always the early riser on weekends. I quickly wiped my face, forced my expression into something neutral, something that wouldn't worry an 8-year-old who was bouncing into the kitchen in her favorite purple pajamas. "Morning, Jada. Morning, Daddy." She climbed onto her usual stool at the kitchen island. "Are we having pancakes? I can smell them." "Change of plans, baby girl," Trevor said, his voice suddenly warm and loving in a way that made my chest ache. "How about we go out for breakfast instead? Just you, me, and your brother. Let's go to that diner you love." "Really?" Kayla's face lit up. "Can we get the pancakes with the whipped cream mountain?" "Absolutely." Trevor ruffled her hair, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "You don't mind, do you, Jada? I know you usually come, but I thought maybe you'd like a morning to yourself. You're always doing so much." The words were considerate on the surface, but I heard what he was really saying. "You're not needed here. This is for real family." "Sure," I managed. "That sounds nice. You three have fun." I watched them leave an hour later. Trevor and both kids, Devin still sleepy but excited about the diner, Kayla chattering about what she was going to order. None of them looked back as they pulled out of the driveway. I stood at the window until the car disappeared, then I finally let myself cry. I cried for the pancakes I'd burned. I cried for the 5 years I'd spent trying to earn a place in this family. I cried for every school event I'd attended, every braid I'd done, every scraped knee I'd kissed, every nightmare I'd soothed. I cried because I'd given everything I had, and apparently it still wasn't enough. It would never be enough, because I wasn't their real mom. The house felt different after that morning, or maybe I felt different in it. I couldn't unsee what Trevor had revealed, that no matter how much I did, no matter how much I loved his children, I would always be just the woman he married. Not a real parent, not really family, just someone trying too hard to be something I wasn't. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt dismissed by someone you love, ever had your contributions minimized or your efforts invalidated, I'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. These stories matter because they remind us we're not alone in our pain. Your support helps me keep sharing these truths. Thank you for being part of this community. Over the next few days, I moved through the house like a ghost of myself. I still got the kids ready for school, still made their lunches, still drove them where they needed to go. But something had shifted inside me. Every time I braided Kayla's hair, I heard Trevor's voice. "You're not their real mom." Every time I helped Devin with his reading homework, the words echoed, "You're just my wife." That's enough. Was it enough? Was being just the wife supposed to fulfill me when I'd spent 5 years building relationships with these children? When I'd been the one to teach Kayla how to ride a bike, the one who'd potty trained Devin, the one who knew that Kayla liked her sandwiches cut diagonally and Devin needed his closet light on at night or he couldn't sleep. I started to notice things I'd overlooked before. The way Trevor never corrected his mother when she referred to me as Trevor's wife instead of the kid's stepmother. The way he'd introduce me to other parents at school events with, "This is my wife, Jada." Never, "This is Kayla and Devin's mom, Jada." Small things. Tiny things. Things that added up to a truth I'd been too in love to see. I'd been allowed to do the work of motherhood without ever being given the title or the respect that came with it. The PTA meeting was on a Tuesday evening. I'd been on the committee for 3 years, had helped organize every major school event, had spent countless hours in planning meetings and fundraisers. I was supposed to be there that night to finalize plans for the fall festival. The same festival Trevor had been so angry about me volunteering for. I stood in the kitchen at 5:30, car keys in hand, staring at my calendar. The meeting started at 6. I had plenty of time to get there, but Trevor's words kept playing in my head. Maybe try less hard. So, I didn't go. I texted the committee chair, sorry, something came up, and I stayed home. I made dinner, helped with homework, got the kids to bed. Trevor was working late, didn't even notice I hadn't gone out. And the world didn't end. The fall festival planning continued without me. I wasn't indispensable after all. The next week, there was a parent-teacher conference for Kayla. I'd attended every single one since I'd met Trevor, had built a relationship with her teachers, had been the one to follow up on their suggestions and implement strategies to help her with her reading comprehension. The appointment was in my calendar. I'd taken the afternoon off work. But the morning of the conference, I didn't mention it to Trevor. When he came down for breakfast, I was already dressed for work, packing lunches like always. "Don't forget Kayla has that conference today," I said casually. "At 3:00. With Mrs. Patterson." Trevor looked up from his coffee, confused. "I thought you were handling that?" "I always handle it," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "But you're their father. Maybe you should go this time." "Jada, I have meetings all afternoon. You know I can't just leave work." "Neither can I lied. "I have a deadline. You'll have to figure it out." I left for work before he could argue, and I spent the afternoon at my desk in the architectural firm, where I worked as a designer, wondering if he'd actually go. Wondering if he'd cancel his meetings and show up for his daughter. Wondering if he'd realize how much I'd been doing that he'd taken for granted. He went. He texted me at 3:30, annoyed, just left the school. Would have been nice to have more warning. Mrs. Patterson had a lot to say. I didn't respond. That evening, Trevor was quieter than usual. He helped the kids with homework, something he usually left to me, and fumbled through Kayla's math problems with visible frustration. She kept saying, "But Jada does it this way," and he kept responding, "Well, Daddy's doing it now." After the kids were in bed, he found me in our bedroom, reading. "The conference was fine," he said. Sitting on the edge of the bed, "Kayla's doing well. Reading's still a challenge, but Mrs. Patterson says she's improving." "That's good," I said, not looking up from my book. "She mentioned you haven't been at the last 2 PTA meetings. Said the committee missed you." "I've been busy." "Busy?" Trevor frowned. "You're never too busy for school stuff." "Things change," I said simply. He was quiet for a moment, and I could feel him studying me. "Is this about what I said? Last Saturday?" I finally looked at him. "What do you think?" "Jada, I was stressed. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." I closed my book. "You meant every word. And you know what? You were right. I'm not their real mom, so maybe I should stop acting like I am." "That's not what I meant?" "Then what did you mean, Trevor? Because from where I'm sitting, you made it very clear that all the work I do, all the love I give these kids, doesn't actually make me their parent. I'm just your wife. So I'm going to start acting like it." He stood up, running his hand over his head in that way he did when he was frustrated. "This is ridiculous. You're taking it too far." "Am I?" I set my book on the nightstand. "Tell me, Trevor, when's Devin's next dentist appointment?" He blinked. "I don't know. You handle all that?" "What's Kayla's favorite subject in school?" Art?" "It's science. She wants to be a marine biologist. When's the school bake sale?" "I don't—" "This Friday. When's Devin's soccer practice?" "Jada, I don't know because you handle all of this. That's what you do." "No," I said quietly. "That's what mothers do. But I'm not their real mom, remember? So maybe it's time you started handling it yourself." The next morning, I made breakfast for myself and left for work early. I didn't make the kids' lunches. I didn't lay out their clothes. I didn't remind Trevor about Kayla's show and tell or Devin's library book that was due back. I just stopped. Trevor called me at 10 that morning, his voice tight with frustration. Kayla forgot her lunch. I had to leave work to bring it to her. "Okay," I said. "That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Trevor? You're their father. Sometimes kids forget things. Parents handle it." "You could have made her lunch like you always do." "I made my own lunch. She's not my responsibility, remember?" He hung up without saying goodbye. Have you ever reached a point where you realized your love wasn't valued? Where everything you'd given was taken for granted until you stopped giving it? If you have a story like that, if this resonates with you in any way, please share it in the comments below. Sometimes we need to know we're not alone in these moments of awakening. Your stories matter to me, and I read every single one. The shift wasn't immediate. It happened gradually, like ice melting so slowly you don't notice until the whole structure has changed. I stopped attending school events, stopped volunteering for field trips, stopped being the one who knew where everything was and what everyone needed. Trevor started to struggle. The kids' homework wasn't done on time. Kayla showed up to dance class in the wrong outfit because Trevor hadn't read the email about the recital costume. Devin forgot his permission slip for the museum trip 3 days in a row until finally Trevor had to drive it to school himself. The laundry piled up. Dinner became takeout most nights because Trevor didn't know how to make the meals the kids actually liked. "Why is everything falling apart?" he asked me one evening, standing in the kitchen surrounded by dirty dishes and unopened school folders. "Nothing's falling apart," I said calmly. "You're just doing what single parents do every day. You're handling your children. But I always did it because I loved them, because I thought I was their parent too. But you made it clear I'm not. So now you get to do it all yourself. Congratulations?" The kids noticed the change too, though they were too young to articulate it. Kayla stopped asking me to do her hair, started going to her father instead. He couldn't braid like I could, and she went to school with lopsided pigtails, but she didn't complain. Devin stopped bringing me his books at bedtime. Trevor read to him now, rushed through the pages because he was tired, skipping the character voices that Devin loved. One night, about 3 weeks after that devastating Saturday morning, Kayla came into the living room where I was watching TV. She stood in the doorway in her pajamas, her hair unbrushed, her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. "Jada?" she said softly. "Are you mad at us?" My heart cracked a little. "No, sweetie, I'm not mad at you." "Then how come you don't do stuff with us anymore? How come you don't help with homework or make pancakes or come to my dance class?" I looked at this beautiful child, this girl I'd loved like my own, and I wanted to tell her the truth. But she was 8 years old. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her father had dismissed 5 years of love with one sentence? How do you tell a child that you're protecting yourself from more hurt? "I've just been busy with work," I said. It was a lie, but a kind one. "Oh." She stood there for another moment, then turned to leave. At the doorway, she paused. "I miss you." Those 3 words destroyed me. But I couldn't go back. I couldn't put myself through the pain of loving these children completely while being told I wasn't really their parent. So I just said, "I miss you too, baby girl." She went upstairs, and I cried quietly into a throw pillow so no one would hear. Trevor tried to apologize, but his apologies were hollow. "I'm sorry, okay? I was wrong to say that. Can we just go back to normal?" But there was no going back. Normal had been built on me accepting less than I deserved, on me pouring everything into a role I was never going to be fully acknowledged for. Normal had been me trying desperately to earn a place in a family, while the man who'd invited me in kept one foot on my welcome mat, ready to yank it out from under me whenever he got overwhelmed. "I accept your apology," I told him. "But nothing's going back to the way it was." "So what? You're just going to stop being part of this family?" "I'm not stopping anything," I said. "I'm just matching my effort to my position. You wanted me to stop acting like their mom, so I stopped. This is what that looks like." He didn't understand. He couldn't see that he'd broken something fundamental, something that couldn't be fixed with a simple, "I'm sorry." He'd shown me exactly how he saw me, not as an equal partner in parenting, not as someone whose contributions mattered, but as a convenience. Someone who handled the difficult, time-consuming, exhausting work of raising children so he didn't have to. And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. A month after the pancake breakfast that changed everything, Trevor's mother came for a visit. Linda had never particularly liked me. I could tell from the way she'd looked at me when Trevor first introduced us, like I was a temporary fixture in her son's life, someone who'd be replaced eventually. She doted on Kayla and Devin, spoiled them with presents and attention, and largely ignored me except for polite small talk. That weekend, she took over the kitchen, making the kids' favorite meals, organizing their rooms, doing all the things I used to do. Trevor seemed relieved to have his mother there, handling everything, making his life easier again. Sunday evening, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. I was upstairs folding laundry, my laundry, not the family's, when their voices drifted up through the vents. "I don't know what's wrong with her, Mom," Trevor was saying. "She's completely checked out. Won't help with the kids, barely speaks to me. It's like living with a stranger." "Well, what did you expect?" Linda's voice was sharp. "You can't just say hurtful things and expect people to get over it." I stopped folding, surprised. Linda was defending me? I apologized, Trevor said, multiple times, but she won't let it go. Because words matter, Trevor, especially words like that. That girl has been raising your children for 5 years. 5 years! She's been there for every skinned knee, every nightmare, every school project. And you told her she wasn't their real mother? That's cruel. I was stressed. You were selfish, Linda interrupted. You were happy to let her do all the work, as long as she didn't ask for any recognition. But the moment she wanted acknowledgement, you put her in her place. Well, now she's found her place, and it doesn't include breaking her back for a family that doesn't appreciate her. There was silence. Then Trevor said quietly, "What am I supposed to do?" "Fix it," Linda said. "Really fix it. Not with words, but with actions. Show her she matters. Show her you see everything she's done. And pray she's willing to forgive you, because, honey, if I were her, I'd already be gone." I stood there in my bedroom, holding one of my sweaters, tears running down my face. Trevor's mother saw what he couldn't. But even her words, as validating as they were, couldn't change the fundamental truth. I deserved better than this. That night, I made a decision. Not a dramatic one, not yet. But a quiet one, the kind that grows in the dark until it's strong enough to face the light. I decided to start putting myself first, to start living for myself instead of for a family that would never fully accept me. I started small. I signed up for a pottery class on Thursday evenings. My night off, I told Trevor, who looked confused but didn't argue. I reconnected with old friends, women I'd lost touch with during my years of intensive step-parenting. I started going to the gym in the mornings before work, taking time for myself that I'd always given to making elaborate breakfasts for everyone else. Trevor noticed. "You're never home anymore," he complained one evening. "I'm home every evening by 6, I pointed out. "I'm just not centering my entire life around this family anymore." "This family? It's our family." "Is it?" I looked at him. "Because you made it pretty clear I'm not really part of it. Not in the way that matters." "God, Jada, how long are you going to punish me for one stupid thing I said?" "I'm not punishing you," I said calmly. "I'm protecting myself. There's a difference." The pottery class became my sanctuary. Every Thursday, I'd drive to the community center, sit at a wheel and shape clay with my hands. There was something deeply satisfying about it, taking formless earth and turning it into something beautiful, something solid, something that would last. The instructor, a woman named Sharon in her 60s with paint-stained hands and kind eyes, noticed my dedication. "You're good at this," she said one evening, watching me work on a vase. "Have you done pottery before?" "No," I said. "I've been too busy with other things. But I'm making time now." "Good," Sharon said. "We have to make time for what feeds our souls. Otherwise, we disappear into other people's lives." Her words hit me like a revelation. That's exactly what I'd been doing, disappearing into Trevor's life, into his children's lives, until there was nothing left of just Jada, the woman who loved art and creativity, the woman who'd had dreams of her own before she'd subordinated them all to the dream of being a good stepmother. I started making more pottery, bowls and plates and cups and vases. I set up a small studio space in the spare bedroom, the one we'd talked about turning into a guest room but never got around to. Trevor walked by one evening and stopped, staring at the pottery wheel and the shelves of drying pieces. "What's all this?" he asked. "My hobby," I said. "My passion, actually. Something that's mine." "When did you have time to do all this?" "I made time," I said. "Turns out when you're not responsible for every single thing in a household, you have a lot more freedom." He stood there for a moment longer, then walked away without another word. The kids' routines continued to suffer. Kayla's grades started to slip because homework wasn't being checked consistently. Devin got in trouble at school for not having his supplies. The house was messier, meals were haphazard, and Trevor was exhausted, running himself ragged trying to do everything I'd been doing while also working full-time. "I don't know how you did all of this," he admitted one evening, collapsed on the couch after a particularly chaotic day. "It's like a full-time job on top of my actual full-time job." "It is a full-time job," I said. "It's called parenting. Welcome to it." "But you made it look so easy." "That's because I was doing it out of love," I said quietly, "and because I thought it mattered. That I mattered. But you taught me otherwise." He looked at me with something like desperation in his eyes. "What do you want from me, Jada? Tell me what to do to fix this." I thought about that question for a long time. What did I want? An apology? I'd gotten that multiple times, and it hadn't changed anything. Recognition? Appreciation? Those things felt empty now, too little too late. What I really wanted was to go back in time and not hear those words, to not know how easily Trevor could dismiss everything I'd done, to still believe in the family we'd been building together. But you can't unknow what you know. You can't unhear what's been said. I don't think you can fix this, I said finally. I think you broke something that can't be repaired. So what? We just get divorced. Throw away 7 years? 7 years. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Trevor, 5 of those years I spent raising your children, loving them, being there for them, and you threw that away with one sentence. So don't talk to me about throwing things away. You did that already. He left the room, and I heard him in the kids' rooms later, his voice low as he read bedtime stories. I stayed in my pottery studio, shaping clay, finding peace in the silence. 3 months after that terrible Saturday morning, Trevor's ex-wife called. Crystal, the woman who'd left her children when Devin was 2, who'd chosen her career over her family, who'd been largely absent except for birthday cards and occasional phone calls. She was calling to say she'd be in town for Thanksgiving and wanted to see the kids. Trevor was flustered, unsure. I don't know if that's a good idea, he said into the phone. They barely know you. But Crystal was insistent. And eventually, Trevor agreed to let her come to the house for Thanksgiving dinner. He hung up, looking stressed. I don't know how to handle this, he admitted. The kids don't really remember her. It's going to be awkward. 5 months ago, I would have helped him. I would have prepared the kids, talked to them about their mother, made sure the house was perfect, cooked a meal that would impress. But that Jada was gone. I'm sure you'll figure it out, I said. You're not going to help? Why would I? She's their real mom, right? You should be thrilled. Now you won't need me to pretend anymore. Trevor's face fell. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Trevor. But it is what it is. Thanksgiving was awkward, just as Trevor had predicted. Crystal showed up in expensive clothes with expensive gifts, trying to buy affection from children who looked at her like a stranger. Kayla was polite but distant. Devin barely spoke to her at all. And Crystal, for all her efforts, couldn't bridge the gap that 5 years of absence had created. I watched from the sidelines, literally sitting at the edge of the dining table while Crystal sat in what used to be my seat, next to the children. Trevor kept glancing at me, his expression pleading, but I remained neutral. This was his family reunion, not mine. After dinner, Crystal pulled Trevor aside. I could hear them talking in the kitchen. They don't know me, Crystal was saying, and she sounded genuinely upset. I'm their mother, and they look at me like I'm nobody. You've been gone for years, Trevor said quietly. What did you expect? I don't know. I thought they'd be excited to see me, but they clearly love her more. There was bitterness in her voice when she said, her, meaning me. Jada's been here, Trevor said. She's been raising them while you were in California building your career. So she's their mother now? Is that it? There was a long pause. Then Trevor said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. She was. Until I ruined it. I left the dining table then, went upstairs to my pottery studio, closed the door. I didn't want to hear anymore. Didn't want to feel the complicated emotions swirling through me, vindication that Trevor finally understood what he'd lost, sadness that understanding it hadn't changed anything, and a strange, hollow emptiness where my love for this family used to be. Crystal left the next morning, promising to visit again soon, a promise everyone knew she wouldn't keep. The kids went back to school and life continued in its new, fractured rhythm. December came, and with it, the holiday season. Usually, I'd have decorated the house by now, put up the tree, planned elaborate holiday meals and shopping trips for gifts. But this year, I did none of that. The house stayed undecorated. Trevor bought a small tree, and he and the kids put it up themselves. The ornaments hung haphazardly, missing the careful color coordination I usually did. Kayla asked me one evening why I wasn't helping with Christmas preparations. Your dad's got it, I said gently. But you always do Christmas, she said, her voice small. You make it special. I'm sure your dad will make it special too. She looked at me with those big eyes, and I could see she was trying to understand what had changed, why the stepmother who used to do everything had suddenly stopped caring, but she didn't have the words to ask. and I didn't have the words to explain. Christmas morning was subdued. I'd bought gifts for the kids. I wasn't cruel, but I didn't go overboard the way I usually did. Trevor had clearly panicked at the last minute and bought random toys that didn't match what the kids had actually asked for. There was no special breakfast, no Christmas music playing, none of the traditions I'd worked so hard to establish. After the gifts were opened, Devin climbed into Trevor's lap and said, "I wish Jada still liked us." The words pierced my heart. "I do like you, baby," I said from my chair across the room. "Then how come you don't do stuff with us anymore?" he asked. Trevor's arms tightened around his son, and I saw tears in his eyes. He finally got it. He finally understood what his words had cost. Not just me, but his children too. "That's my fault," Trevor said quietly to Devin. "Jada still loves you. She's just... Daddy made some mistakes, and Jada's hurt. But it's not your fault, buddy. It's mine." It was the first time he'd taken real responsibility, but it was too late. The damage was done. The family we'd built together had fractured, and I didn't know if it could ever be repaired. In January, I started looking at apartments, just browsing listings online in my pottery studio late at night. One-bedroom places, small, but mine. Places where I wouldn't have to worry about anyone but myself, where I could wake up and make breakfast for one, where I could build a life that was entirely my own. Trevor found the browser history on the shared computer. "You're looking at apartments?" He appeared in the doorway of the studio, his face pale. "Just browsing," I said, not looking up from the bowl I was shaping. "You're going to leave." "I don't know yet." "Jada, please." He came into the room, stood next to my pottery wheel. "I know I messed up. I know I said something horrible that I can't take back, but don't leave. Don't leave the kids. They need you." "They have a father," I said, "and apparently a mother who might start visiting more. They'll be fine." "But will you be fine?" he asked. "Will you be happy leaving them?" I finally stopped the wheel, looked up at him. "Will I be happy staying in a relationship where my contributions don't matter? Where I can give everything I have and be told it's not enough because I don't have the right biology? You tell me, Trevor. Which choice leads to happiness?" He had no answer to that. The next week, Sharon from pottery class invited me to join a women's art collective, a group of female artists who met monthly, shared their work, supported each other's creative journeys. I went to my first meeting on a Friday evening, walking into a studio space filled with paintings and sculptures and textiles, and so much vibey retry V continue rant creative energy that I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. The women there ranged in age from late 20s to early 70s, all of them with their own stories, their own journeys. When it was my turn to introduce myself, I said simply, "I'm Jada. I'm a stepmom who's figuring out who she is outside of that role." "Welcome," Sharon said, squeezing my shoulder. "This is a safe space to discover that." Over the next few weeks, I found myself opening up to these women in ways I couldn't with anyone else. They understood the feeling of losing yourself in someone else's life, the exhaustion of trying to prove your worth, the liberation of finally choosing yourself. One woman, Amara, had been through a similar situation. She'd raised her partner's children for 8 years before he left her for someone else. And the courts had ruled she had no rights to the children she'd helped raise because she'd never legally adopted them. "It's like you're good enough to do the work," she told me over coffee one afternoon, "but not good enough to be acknowledged for it. Society has this weird relationship with stepmothers. We're expected to love these children, care for them, raise them, but we're also supposed to remember our place. Never quite a parent, but more than just a bystander. It's an impossible position." Her words validated everything I'd been feeling. The collective became my refuge, the place where I was just Jada, not Trevor's wife, not Kayla and Devin's stepmother, just me. I started bringing my pottery to show them, and they encouraged me to start selling it. Within a month, I had an Etsy shop. Within 2 months, I'd made my first sale. It wasn't much money, but it was mine. Something I'd created from nothing, something that belonged entirely to me. At home, things continued to deteriorate. Trevor was drowning under the weight of solo parenting while working full-time. The kids were acting out, clearly feeling the absence of the stable, nurturing presence I'd once provided. Kayla's teacher called about her declining performance. Devin got into a fight at school, something he'd never done before. And Trevor, overwhelmed and exhausted, started staying late at work more often, leaving the kids with various babysitters who didn't know their routines or their needs. One evening in late January, I came home from an art collective meeting to find Kayla sitting on the stairs, crying. It was almost 9 o'clock, well past her bedtime. Devin was asleep on the couch, still in his school clothes. Trevor's car wasn't in the driveway. "Hey, what's wrong?" I knelt in front of her, instinctively reaching for her, even though I'd been keeping my distance. "Daddy's still not home," she sobbed. "He said he'd be home by 7, but he's not here and the babysitter left and I don't know what to do and Devin won't wake up and I'm scared." My heart broke and blazed with fury at the same time. Trevor had left his 8-year-old daughter in charge? Where the hell was he? I pulled out my phone and called him. It rang 5 times before he answered, and I could hear bar noise in the background. "Jada? Hey, sorry, I meant to call." "Where are you?" I kept my voice calm for Kayla's sake. "I'm at McGinty's with some guys from work. Lost track of time. I'll be home soon." "Your children are home alone, Trevor. The babysitter left. Kayla is terrified and Devin fell asleep on the couch in his school clothes. Get home. Now." I hung up before he could respond. Then I gathered Kayla in my arms and let her cry. "It's okay, baby girl. I'm here now. Let me get your brother into bed, and then I'll stay with you until your dad gets home." I carried Devin upstairs. He was getting heavy, almost too big to carry, but I managed. I changed him into his pajamas while he drowsily protested, tucked him into bed, made sure his closet light was on the way he needed. Then I went back down for Kayla, helped her brush her teeth, braided her hair for tomorrow, read her a quick story, even though she was too upset to really listen. "I miss this," she whispered as I was about to turn off her light. "I miss when you did stuff with us. Did we do something wrong?" "No, sweet girl, you didn't do anything wrong. Not ever." I kissed her forehead. "Get some sleep." Trevor came home 20 minutes later, stumbling slightly, smelling like beer and making too much noise. I met him at the bottom of the stairs, my arms crossed. "You left them alone," I said quietly, trying to contain my rage. "The babysitter was supposed to stay until 8:30. It's 9:15, Trevor. Your 8-year-old was home alone with her 6-year-old brother, scared out of her mind, not knowing where you were." "I lost track of time." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I used to find endearing, but now just annoyed me. "I was having one drink with the guys and it turned into more and I needed a break, Jada. Do you know how hard this is? Doing everything by myself?" "Yes," I said, my voice sharp as glass. "I know exactly how hard it is, because I did it for 5 years while you worked and went out with friends and had a life outside of these children. The only difference is, I never abandoned them. I never left them scared and alone because I needed a break. That's not fair. You want to talk about fair?" I stepped closer, and he actually stepped back. "I gave everything to this family. Everything. And you threw it back in my face. You told me I wasn't their real mother." "Well, congratulations, Trevor. You got your wish." "I stopped acting like it. And now you're learning what it actually means to be their only parent. How does it feel?" "It feels impossible," he said, and there were tears in his eyes now. "I can't do this alone. I need help. I need you." "You had me," I said. "And you didn't value me. You didn't respect me. You didn't see me as an equal partner. You saw me as convenient help that you could dismiss whenever you wanted. So no, Trevor, you don't need me. You need a nanny. You need someone you can pay to do the work without expecting emotional recognition, because that's all I ever was to you. Free labor." "That's not true." "It is true. And the saddest part is, you didn't even realize it until I stopped doing everything. Now you want me back because your life is harder without me, not because you actually value who I am or what I contributed." I walked past him, headed for the stairs. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To pack," I said. "I'm done, Trevor. I'm done pretending this is a marriage. I'm done watching you struggle and feeling guilty for not helping. I'm done being in this house where I'm needed but not wanted." "Jada, please." "I'll stay until the weekend so we can tell the kids properly. They deserve that much. But then I'm leaving." I went upstairs to our bedroom and pulled out my suitcase. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from fear or uncertainty. It was from relief, from finally choosing myself, from recognizing that I deserved better than this. Trevor followed me upstairs, watched me pack. "I love you," he said desperately. "Doesn't that matter?" "It might," I said, folding a sweater. "If your love meant respect. If it meant seeing me as an equal. If it meant valuing what I did instead of taking it for granted. But your love isn't enough to make up for how you've treated me. Your love isn't enough to erase what you said or how you made me feel. So no, Trevor. Right now, your love doesn't matter at all." That weekend, we sat down with Kayla and Devin. I'd thought long and hard about what to say, how to explain this to children who hadn't asked for any of this, who were innocent casualties of adult failures. "We need to talk to you guys about something important," Trevor started, his voice already breaking. "Are you getting divorced?" Kayla asked immediately. She was 8, but she wasn't stupid. She'd felt the tension, seen the distance. "Yes," I said gently. "We are." "Because of us?" Devin's voice was small, scared. "No, baby, never because of you." I reached across the table and took both their hands. "This is about grown-up stuff. It's about your dad and me not being able to work things out. But I want you both to know something really important. I love you. I've always loved you. And just because I'm not going to live here anymore doesn't mean I don't care about you." "But you're leaving us," Kayla said, her eyes filling with tears. "Just like Mom did." The comparison stung, but I understood why she made it. "I'm not abandoning you," I said firmly. "Your mom left because she chose her career over being a parent. I'm leaving because staying here was hurting me, and I can't be the person you need if I'm hurting. But I'll still see you. I'll still be in your life if you want me to be. That's up to you." "We want you," Devin said immediately. "We want you to stay." "I know you do. But I can't." I looked at Trevor, who was crying now. Sometimes staying isn't the brave thing. Sometimes leaving is. Moving out was strange. I'd lived in that house for 5 years, had made it a home, had filled it with my presence. Now I was packing up my things, my clothes, my books, my pottery supplies, and leaving behind the life I'd built. The apartment I'd found was small, just a 1-bedroom in a complex 20 minutes away. But it was mine. All mine. Trevor helped me move, which was awkward, but necessary. The kid stayed with his mother for the day. I couldn't handle saying goodbye to them while also packing up my life. We worked in silence mostly, carrying boxes down the stairs, loading them into my car in the U-Haul trailer Trevor had rented. "I'm sorry," he said as we were loading the last box. "I know I keep saying it, but I am. I'm sorry for everything." "I know," I said, "and I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean staying. It just means I'm not going to let your mistakes poison the rest of my life." "Will you still see the kids?" "If they want to see me, yes. But that has to be their choice, Trevor. I can't force a relationship with them anymore. If they want me in their lives, I'll be there. But I'm not going to push." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me." "No," I said. "You ruined the best thing that ever happened to your children. I'll be fine. I'll build a new life, find new happiness. But Kayla and Devin, they lost someone who loved them unconditionally. And that's on you." I drove away from that house for the last time, watching it disappear in my rearview mirror. I didn't cry. I felt lighter than I had in months. The first few weeks in my new apartment were an adjustment. It was quiet, so quiet after years of children's laughter and chaos. But it was peaceful too. I could wake up when I wanted, eat what I wanted, structure my day however I pleased. I set up a corner of my living room as a pottery studio, spent hours shaping clay and finding myself again. Kayla texted me 2 weeks after I moved out. "Can I come visit?" "Of course," I replied. "When?" "This weekend. Dad said he'd bring us both of you." "Devin too, if that's okay. It's more than okay. I'll make lunch." That Saturday, Trevor dropped the kids off at my apartment. They stood in the doorway looking uncertain, like they didn't know if they were still allowed to hug me. I opened my arms and they crashed into me, both of them talking at once about school and friends and everything that had happened in 2 weeks. We spent the afternoon together, just the 3 of us. I made their favorite lunch, showed them my pottery studio, let them try the wheel with clay slipping through their small fingers. It was comfortable and familiar, but also different. Better, maybe, because there was no pressure now. No expectations I had to meet, no role I had to play perfectly. I could just love them without the weight of trying to prove I deserved to. "Can we come back?" Kayla asked as Trevor was picking them up. "Anytime you want," I said. "I'm always here for you." "Do you hate Dad?" Devin asked suddenly. "No, buddy, I don't hate him. We just couldn't be married anymore, but that doesn't mean I hate him." "Good," Devin said, "because he cries a lot now. About you." That information sat heavy in my chest, but I didn't let it change anything. Trevor's regret wasn't my responsibility to fix. Over the next few months, I built a new life. The kids came to visit every other weekend. Trevor had to arrange his schedule to make it work, had to actually be present and plan ahead. My pottery business grew. I made friends through the art collective. I started dating. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and conversations with people who saw me as Jada, not as someone's wife or someone's stepmother. And I was happy. Not the performance of happiness I'd been doing for years, but real, genuine, bone-deep happiness. The kind that comes from knowing yourself, from respecting yourself enough to walk away from situations that diminish you. Trevor called me one evening, 6 months after I'd moved out. "Can we talk?" he asked. "In person." We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. He looked different, older, more worn down. Single parenting and the guilt of what he'd lost had taken their toll. "I wanted to tell you something," he said, stirring his coffee without drinking it. "I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I said what I said, why I treated you the way I did." "Okay," I said, waiting. "My therapist helped me see that I never processed Crystal leaving. I was angry at her for abandoning the kids, and somewhere along the way, I think I transferred that anger onto you. Every time you acted like their mother, it reminded me that Crystal wasn't there, that she'd chosen to leave, and instead of being grateful that you were there, I resented you for it. Which is completely fucked up, I know." "Yeah," I agreed. "It is." "I'm not telling you this to make excuses," he continued. "Just to explain. And to tell you that I'm working on it. I'm trying to be better. For the kids, mostly. But also because I want to be the kind of person who deserves someone like you. Even if I never get you back." "You won't get me back," I said gently. "Not as your wife. That door is closed, Trevor. You can't unring that bell." "I know." He finally looked at me. "But can we be friends? Co-parents, sort of? The kids love you. And I think they need you in their lives, in whatever capacity you're willing to give." I thought about it. About Kayla and Devin, who hadn't asked for any of this. About the love I still had for them, despite everything. "I can do that," I said. "For them. But we need clear boundaries, Trevor. I'm not going to be your backup parent anymore. I'm not going to step in and save you when things get hard. You're their father. That's your job." "I understand. And if you ever dismiss my relationship with them again, I'm gone. No second chances, no explanations. I'll walk away and I won't come back." "Fair," he said. "More than fair." We left the coffee shop with a tentative peace between us. Not forgiveness, not completely, but an understanding. A way forward that centered the kids instead of our failed marriage. A year after I moved out, I was thriving. My pottery business had grown enough that I could cut back my hours at the architecture firm. I'd been featured in a local art magazine. I'd even started teaching pottery classes at the community center, passing on what Sharon had given me. Kayla and Devin visited regularly, and our relationship had evolved into something healthier than it had been before. I wasn't trying to be their mother anymore. I was just someone who loved them, who was there for them, who they could talk to. And that was enough. Trevor had started dating someone, a woman named Michelle, who seemed nice enough, and importantly, who didn't have to prove herself as a stepmother because she was walking into a situation where boundaries were already clear. I was seeing someone too, an artist named David, who understood my need for independence, who respected my complicated relationship with my former stepchildren, who loved me without needing me to be anything other than exactly who I was. One Saturday afternoon, I was working in my studio when my phone rang. It was Kayla, which was unusual. She usually texted. "Hey, sweet girl, what's up? Can we talk?" Her voice was serious, older somehow than her 9 years. "Of course, what's on your mind?" "I wanted to tell you something. We had to write about heroes at school, people we look up to. And I wrote about you." My hands stilled on the clay I was shaping. "You did?" "Yeah, because you're the bravest person I know. You didn't stay somewhere that made you sad just because it was easier. You chose yourself. And Ms. Patterson, my teacher, she said that's what real heroes do. They show us how to be strong even when it's hard." Tears were running down my face now, but I was smiling. "Thank you for telling me that, Kayla. It means everything. I love you, Jada. Not because you're married to Dad or because you have to be. Just because you're you. I love you too, baby girl. Always." After we hung up, I sat in my studio for a long time, thinking about that terrible Saturday morning when Trevor had said those devastating words. "You're not their real mom. He'd meant it as a dismissal, as a way to put me in my place. But in a strange way, he'd freed me. He'd forced me to see that I'd been seeking validation from people who would never fully give it to me. That I'd been trying to earn a place in a family instead of recognizing that I deserved to be valued from the beginning. Was I their real mom? No. But I was real to them. My love was real. My impact on their lives was real. And that had to be enough. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for walking this journey with me. Thank you for witnessing my pain and my healing. If my story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose yourself over a situation that was diminishing you, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. Share your own stories in the comments below. Stories of choosing yourself, of walking away from places that didn't value you, of finding strength you didn't know you had. This community we're building together, it's about more than just telling stories. It's about recognizing our worth, about refusing to accept less than we deserve, about understanding that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is leave. It's about knowing that we are enough, exactly as we are, without having to prove ourselves or earn our place, or accept crumbs from people who should be offering us the whole meal. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to be seen and acknowledged for everything you contribute. And if the people in your life can't give you that, you deserve to walk away and find people who can. That's not selfishness, that's self-respect. And it's the most important lesson I've learned. Take care of yourselves. Protect your peace. Know your worth. And remember, you don't need anyone's permission to choose yourself. You don't need to justify putting your own well-being first. You don't need to stay in situations that diminish you just because other people expect you to. You are enough. You've always been enough. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve access to your love, your time, or your energy. Until next time, I'll be here, shaping clay in my studio, building a life that's entirely mine, and loving fiercely on my own terms. Thank you for being part of my journey. I'll see you in the next story.